Good morning, Rabotai. We're continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim Siman Tzadi, towards the end of the Siman in Chotfila. Sif Chafhei is what we're starting with today. Daf Kuf Chaf Dalet Amud Aleph of the regular Dapei Mishna Berura. Maran already told us that a person would not sit or stand next to his Rebbe, or this is Rebbe Muvhak, a person's main Rebbe who has learned most of his Chokhmah from. You don't stand right behind him or right in front of him or to his side. When you daven, that's considered disrespect. We mentioned the different reasons behind this halakha. Now Maran writes, Talmid Chaver mutar litpalel achorei rabo. A person that's Talmid Chaver, we find several places in Shas that someone was considered a Talmid, but not just a regular Talmid, but a Talmid Chaver. That means a person, a student that the Rebbe learns Chokhmah from, is a higher level of student that becomes kind of like a peer to the Rebbe. We had Rabbi Chia, for instance, to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. He was a Talmid Haver. Resh Lakish to Rabbi Yochanan. He was a Talmid Haver. He became his Chavruta. We have multiple times that someone is considered a Talmid Chaver, even though that the Gemara says, for instance, in Ta'anit Daf Zayin, the Gemara says, Harbe lamati mirabotai u'mechaverai yoter mehem u'talmidai yoter mikulam, that I learn from my students more than I learn even from my Rebbeim and my Chaverim. But that happens to be generally true, because a person by teaching is the greatest form of learning when you're challenged by the students. But that doesn't mean that the student is in a high level, almost equal to you, but that rather means that a person by teaching learns the most themselves, but does not necessarily suffice for the student to be considered a Talmid Chaver until he is a certain Ramah of learning, certain level of learning, that the Rebbe could go back and forth with him in a higher level, like a Chavruta, like a friend. So that person, even though that your majority of Chokhmah could have come from that person, still you're considered a peer to some extent, that you could stand next to him and daven, and that would be basically the halacha. The Mishna Berura writes, Achorei rabo vehu adin betzad rabo. It's the same halacha. You could stand in the side, in the back. Aval lifnei rabo asur. But even a Talmid Haver cannot stand in front of his Rebbe, having his back to his rabbi, because that would be considered a higher level of disrespect. And according to those who are stringent to daven in front of the Rebbe, even if it's more than 4 amot away, it will be the same thing over here as well, that you can't daven in front of your Rebbe Muvhak. Says the Mishna, the Shulchan Aruch, Kol makom she'en korin bo kriyat Shema, any place that you can't read kriyat Shema, ein mitpalelim bo, you also cannot daven in that place. Now we went through all the details of the places that you're not allowed to daven kriyat Shema because of the bad smell or because of the erva, and all of those. Just like you would have to distance yourself while saying Kriyat Shema from excrement or from urine, bad smell, a dead corpse, and from erva, that means nakedness, being exposed to nakedness, which a person cannot say Shema in front of. Kach marchikin litfilah. Same it would be for tefillah. This is something we have mentioned many times in the Mishnah Berura. We mentioned that these are halachot that we discuss in Kriyat Shema because we're talking about the Kriyat Shema, but really it's the same thing in Shema and tefillah. Now here Maran says that black and white clearly. Here Mishnah Berura adds again another time that's not just Kriyat Shema and Tefillah, but when you want to say Divrei Torah, it's the same thing. You want to say Divrei Torah, you have erva in front of you. You can't say Divrei Torah, right? When you want to say Te'ilim, and there is erva in front of you, you cannot say Te'ilim. Any Divrei Torah, Divrei Kedusha would be a problem. Now says Shulchan Aruch in Sif Kaf Zayin, Imagine if you're davening and your kid that you have worked very hard to potty train has an accident, right? Has an accident. And standing next to you, it makes a puddle. So what do you do now? Says the Shulchan Aruch, this could happen at home as well. The person is learning, is davening, is saying Tehillim. The mother is davening. It happens a lot. The mother is davening and the kid comes and they have leaked. Even if they haven't made an accident, but they've leaked all over the place. Or they're being potty trained and they have an accident, they have an episode. Right? So what happens? We spoke about So'a beforehand in diaper, but meraglaim in the diaper that doesn't have any smell, is not exposed, is covered from outside, and it's all absorbed in the diaper, would not be a problem. So says Maran Shulchan Aruch, Yishtok at sheyaviu mayim la'atil al meraglaim. You should keep quiet, stop your tefillah until someone comes and cleans it up, or at least dilutes it with a revi'it of water, as we discussed this before in Hilchot Kriyat Shema, or until it gets absorbed in the ground, if the ground is a regular floor, dirt floor, that things could get absorbed in it. So until then, you cannot continue your tefillah. And says Marash Charuch, O yehalech lefanav 400 או לסתדיו, או יצא מבית הכנסת ויגמור תפילתו. If there's nobody there to take care of the situation, you could just walk away. Even though that you're in the middle of tefillah, you could walk away to a place that's clean and continue your tefillah if there's nobody else to take care of the mess, take care of the situation. Says the Rama, it's best to walk away and not keep quiet, because keeping quiet could, technically speaking, at some point become a hefsek in the middle of your tefillah. So best is to walk away, continue your tefillah elsewhere. Shema Ishe Kedid Ligmor et Kulah, because you may come to wait enough time that will take you to finish your whole Shemona Esrei. Let's imagine if a person's Shemona Esrei takes 5 minutes. If you wait in the middle of Shemona Esrei 5 minutes, then that's considered a hefsek. You have to go back and daven, perhaps, again. And therefore, best is, says the Ma, go to the side, go distance yourself 4 amot in front or side, or go out of the room and continue your tefillah, to which the Mishna Berura writes, same halakha would be in tefillah, in any devarim shebektusha, and נקט תפילה על רבותא דבזה גם כן צריך ללכת לפניו 400 ולא אמרינן כיוון שהוא עומד כבר בתפילה אין צריך להרחיק. He mentions tefillah because as an additional chidush, that even though that you're standing already in front of the king, you're standing in tefillah. Usually, normally speaking, we don't allow movement in the tefillah. You're standing there. But over here, we will say that even though that you started the tefillah, you're standing, move away, because it's not kavod to daven in front of meraglaim. Ishtok de kol ze lo mikri hefsek. The pausing in the middle of tefillah until somebody cleans this up is not considered hefsek, says the Mishna Berura. Aval asur lafsik b'dibur, but you can't talk. You can't call your wife and say, "Oh, please come clean the mess." That's already a full-fledged hefsek. In the middle of tefillah, you cannot do that. Kevan the isur meraglaim eno ela midrabanan v'gam yesh omrim de'en tzarich larchik b'zeh klal. There are those who are mekel altogether with meraglaim. Al ken afilu im גם אחרים עומדים בתוך 400 של מרגליים ומתפללים, אין לא להפסיק בדיבור בשבילם להודיעם. Imagine that you're the only one that was paying attention, so you realize that this mess happened, that some kid made next to the people who were davening, but there are 5 other people who didn't realize it. And they're standing right next to the puddle, meraglaim, they're continuing to daven. Do you have to call them and say, look, there is a meraglaim over here, and make sure that they go away? No, you don't have to say anything. You can't stop b'dibur. You can't stop with speaking in the middle to let them know. You just move away yourself and you finish your tefillah, and you let them continue their tefillah, because this is considered a isur darabanan. It's not like a tzo'ah, which would be isur d'oraita, would be a different story. To stop somebody from isur d'oraita is way different than stopping someone from Isur. For instance, the Gemara in Daf Yutet that we had together in Masechet Brachot, there's talking about someone that is walking in the street and you see them wearing shatnez. Right? Shatnez used to be not. It used to be a mitzvah in the United States of America. Nobody checked for shatnez. Right? It's almost like yashan and chadash. Right? You speak to people. Some people say, "Oh, chadash. What's yashan and chadash is a potentially sur d'oraita. It's a potentially sur d'oraita. Like BB's over here is not. We looked into it this past year, and their flour was vaday chadash. Vaday chadash, according to everybody, is asur. Perhaps the halacha, right? And therefore, you need education for people to know what is chadash, what is yashan. To specifically ask every bakery or every baked item that you use. Going forward, right now, as everything is still good, but getting closer to Rosh Hashanah and Sukkot, it becomes more and more things, especially in pizza shops and in regular bakeries for halot, they become chadash, and people are not aware of this isur being a biblical prohibition. You talk to people, and so thing used to be like that also. Checking for shatnez was a met mitzvah until somebody took it upon himself to make awareness of it, and now a no-frum person buys and wears a suit, especially if it's a fancy suit, without checking it. Like Yoga Boss has more than 50% shatnez in their products, or Og even. Many of the Og shoes, they have shatnez inside. You know that? A lot of the Og products have to be checked for shatnez and so on and so forth. But nevertheless, this is a similar thing, that the isur d'oraita over there by the Gemara. This is if they're wearing a shatnez d'oraita, then you have to tell it to them and take it off. Even in the middle of the street, even if the guy has to now walk topless and it's a little bit embarrassing. So some things are embarrassing in life, I'm saying. But if it's darabanan, if he's wearing only a shatnez that's isur darabanan, sometimes you have shatnez darabanan. In that case, you don't say anything. Even though that he's doing a isur, you just follow the guy home. Once he gets home, he says, "Look, take it off because you're wearing a shatnez darabanan. I didn't want to embarrass you." That the Gemara says, Gadol kavod abriot shedocher lo ta'aseh shebatorah. That gadol kavod abriot is great. That even though that every darabanan is considered an extension of the oraita, this becomes a machlokes shalim, Rambam, Ritva, many others. That in Parashat Shofetim we say lo tasur min hadavar asher yagidu lecha yamin u'smol. That every the Rabbanan, by extension, becomes a Deoraita. Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvot seems to learn that it becomes an actual Deoraita. Right? We should have counted like Chanukah and Purim and Shniot LaArayot and all of those part and parcel of the Taryag. It would be the 614th and 15th. But since we don't count them because they're not Mefurash B'Torah, but they're really considered Deoraita, says the Rambam. But nevertheless, that pushes off. Let's say long parenthesis that I opened over here, but nevertheless, because meraglaim is darabanan, unlike so'ah, unlike excrement, you don't have to tell the other people. You notice it, you walk away, you finish your tefillah elsewhere, and you can let them finish their tefillah if they have not noticed it. And the Ben Ish Chai adds over here that you don't have to even make noise or try to get their attention, try to get their attention and show them the puddle of meraglaim. You don't have to do any of those things. You just walk away, let them, if they chap, they chap. If they don't, they could finish the tefillah, and there's no problem with that whatsoever. So says the Mishna Berura, now, how about if they, we just had this last night, our baby, people were sitting around the thing, and the grandparents came over and so on and so forth, and our baby just took off his diaper, right? And the diaper had chutz mikavotchem, had more than meraglaim, and in the middle of there's multiple problems there because there's farim around and so on and so forth. So what do you do with that? You have now, and nobody noticed it necessarily. So let's imagine if somebody's benching on the table and the kid takes off his diaper or makes an accident, a number 2 accident. So says the Mishnah Berura, If you can't tell them in any other way but talking, tonight you're standing in the middle of Shemona Esrei, a kid makes number 2 in the shul. So you notice it. The other 10 people in the shul didn't notice it. They're standing next to the accident, davening, completely with kavanah. They're like olamot ha'elyonim. Right? You have to bring them down from olamot ha'elyonim. So if you can't explain the situation without talking, you can't just hint it to them, then mutar lafsik b'dibur la'tzilam misur d'oraita. It's mutar to stop your Shemona Esrei and speak words in the middle of Shemona Esrei to save them from misur d'oraita. Because as we mentioned, Tzoah is a biblical level of prohibition to say divrei Torah, divrei kedusha in front of Tzoah is misur d'oraita. V'ha'emacharecha kadosh. We spoke about this in Chol Kriyat Shema at length. And meraglaim is only the Rabbanan, right? Now, if there is a amud meraglaim, if someone is urinating at the time, that kiluach, that flow of meraglaim could be a problem d'oraita as well. But a puddle of meraglaim, that's only the Rabbanan. Therefore, hence the difference between the reaction that you would have as a person that noticed it. In meraglaim, you just go away yourself and you daven elsewhere. But in Tzoah, you would have to actually notify them. The people were davening them to stop and go elsewhere. If you could notify them with hints and with making a noise, getting their attention and showing it to them, good. If you can't, you could even talk to get their attention, to get them to stop davening. So says the Mishna Berura, the mutav she'aseu isur kal, it's better for you to do a light, small isur of hefsek in the middle of tefillah. It's a isur d'Rabbanan le'afsik b'tefillah mishyasu acherim isur d'oraita l'tpaler b'makom metunaf, from them transgressing a d'oraita. So therefore you do a hefsek in tefillah in order to notify them not to continue to daven until they either clean it or they move away. We spoke already earlier on in Siman Ayin Tet about the details of this. What's considered d'oraita? What's considered d'oraita and Rabbanan in this halachot? We have already discussed that at length in Siman Ayin Tet. But if you have, let's say, a kli, you have a metal ball right next to you, and you could just flip it on top of the so'ah, and there you go. We learned about the fact that could save you from the halachic problems. If you have a kisui and the so'ah, so then it's asur for you to stop, because you have a better way of doing it. You have an easier way of getting around the problem. Just cover the so'ah and continue your tefillah and let them continue. Don't stop with speaking. Don't do an isur d'Rabbanan of pausing your tefillah. That of course would be preferable, and that would be the halacha. V'yoter tov katav chayei adam im mityaresh shema yishhe kedei ligmor et kulo. If you're concerned that until you wait in the middle of tefillah for somebody to know this and come clean it up, the time is going to be passing enough time that you'll finish, you will be able to finish the tefillah, and you can't move away. Imagine you're stuck, you're stuck in a place that you can't move out, and if you wait, you may end up waiting 5 minutes until your wife comes to clean up, and that's enough time for you to finish the whole tefillah. That would be considered hefsek. So, says the Chayei Adam, Yismoch al harashba, then you can rely on the Rashba. The sfira letem mutar litpalel kevan shkvar hu omed b'tefillah ve'isur meraglayim d'Rabbanan. So I give you an example. Standing in tefillah or at home in a mourner's house, davening, and the kid comes and makes a puddle. Right? Nobody noticed. Now, you can't call someone because that's asur. You can't move because it's asur to move in front of a person that's davening, right? There's another halakha that for some reason 90% of people don't know, or don't know how important it is. You cannot walk or move in front of a person that is davening Shemona Esrei. Can't. You can't sit in front of them, you can't walk in front of them, can't. So he's standing there, now I have a dilemma. I can't move because behind me someone is davening. I can't daven because of puddle of meraglayim in front of me. I can't pause because no one is going to chap and it's going to be 5 minutes passing, so it's going to be F6. So what do? Says the Mishnah, better to rely on the Rashba and not to pass in front of someone that's davening. What's the Rashba say? The Rashba says, once you're standing in tefillah and meraglayim is only the Rabbanan, continue tefillah. Continue the tefillah. You can't do anything. You have no water to pour on it. You have nothing to cover it with, right? You have no other itzah. Continue davening. Better to daven and not make all of your brachot, bracha lebatala, and rely at least on the shita of Rashba, than passing in front of someone that's davening. You see the importance of this. Or just wait there and make 5 minutes pass, which will be a hefsek in your tefillah. So that's the psak of the Mishnah Berura, of the Chafetz Chaim. And we'll finish off this Siman over here by the last Mishnah Berura in Ot Pevav Veistarech Ayin Len B'Siman Ayin Het ובברכת קריאת שמע, אם נזדמן כן, וכן בכל ברכות, אין צריך לחזור לראש. In other words, the Rama over here said at the end of the Siman that if you wait 5 minutes, which is the time that would take you to finish the entire Shemoneh Esrei from Hashem Tzvatai until it says Shalom, then you have a problem of hefsek. And therefore, says the Rama, better to walk out and daven somewhere else if you can, than wait there for someone to come clean it up. And to that, Mishnah Berura says that earlier on in Siman Ayin Chet we mentioned that by Kriyat Shema and all of the other brachot, you could wait, because if you waited, let's say it takes you 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes to say Shema, even if you wait 5 minutes in the middle of Shema, you don't have to go back to the beginning of Shema. You could continue from where you stopped, unlike Tefillah. So that's a chiluk in Tefillah and Shema. Hence, over there would be better to just wait until someone cleans it, or you could clean it, and then go back to the place that you stopped and pick up from there. And one last, basically that's about it. That concludes our long Siman Tzadi of Hilchot Tefillah, and the next one is going to be a very interesting one. We're going to speak about gartels of Hasidim, why they wear gartel. Does a person have to have a belt during the course of Tefillah, and what the source of all this is? That's in Siman Tzadi Aleph, and also we will have the fact that the person has to have a kisui rosh, when you say bracha, when you enter the shul. Even the Sfaradim, who their minhag was that outside, because of the dangers of society, they walked without the kippah. When you enter the shul, or when you say brachot, or learn that you have to have a kisui rosh. All those we'll discuss B'ezrat Hashem in Siman Tzadi Aleph. Chazak u'Baruch.